Well, there's three huge EFL playoff final matches taking place at Wembley Stadium this weekend, and today we return to preview and predict the second of them, which is the League One playoff final for the 24-25 season. Unlike the Championship final we talked about yesterday, this one features two very local sides, both London-based. Who's going to come out on top? Well, as always, we're going to encourage you to get involved down in the comments section, predict the score and be specific if you think it's going to extra time or penalties. What do you think the outcome of this match will be and who do you think will be promoted? And if you beat or match my overall score, well, you won't get a shout out this time as it's the end of the season. You will get a response and a well done from me down in the comments section. If you haven't yet seen it, we did talk about the Championship playoff final yesterday. That video is up any high above. We've got the League 2 final preview to come tomorrow and the National League 1 next week. But very quickly, before we move on to look ahead to this final, we've got to go and have a quick recap of our semi-final predictions, which, well, didn't go entirely well for me on this occasion, albeit I did predict the style of the two ties pretty well. So as you can probably work out, I've had to do this a little differently than I would for the usual Championship predictions, being two-legged ties and everything. So I've only counted the 4 scores individually rather than the aggregate scores, but I have put a green just to show that I did predict Charlton were going to get through. I also managed to get 3 points for the 2-2 draw in the first leg between Leyton Orient and Stockport. That obviously was a bit of a strange game settled by refereeing decisions, but we'll discuss that later. At least they evened out. Let's go down to the comments section though, where 4 of you beat or match my overall score. Plenty with correct outcomes, but unfortunately not many with the perfect scores. Small picked up 3 points level with me, but for 3 correct outcomes rather than a perfect score. Bobby beat me by 1 with 4 and correctly called the 0-0 in the first leg of the Wycombe-Charlton game. Mello got 4 points as well, with the 1-1 correctly called in 90 minutes for the Orient game in the second leg, where they went to Stockport and drew 1-1. And Paul, top of the tree with 5, 2 correct outcomes and the Orient 1-1. You are the match week winner for the League One playoff semi-finals. But now you've all got to back it up in the final which will take place between 4th and 6th. Two London sides, Charlton Athletic versus Leyton Orient, kicking off on Sunday at 1:01, again due to the brilliant Every Minute Matters campaign. And as we did yesterday, there is a link up in the eye above if you want to go to the Reviver site and learn CPR in just 15 minutes. But for now, we've got to focus on the big match, and this one is absolutely huge. Who is going to be joining the Championship and who is going to be part of our prediction show next year? Let's start with Charlton Athletic, who won 1-0 in a very tight, cagey game against Wycombe Wanderers over the 2 legs, just as we sort of called it would be. Both of these ties for these teams went the way we predicted. We saw one thriller was the game of the playoffs and one that was going to be much tighter. Charlton Athletic defensively magnificent. Sort of the basis I've seen from Nathan Jones before. Obviously a manager I know incredibly well from his multiple stints in charge at Luton and being a season ticket holder, etc. So I've seen a lot of his teams play, and he is a slow builder when it comes to a manager. He starts by building a solid defensive base, and then you get the excitement built in afterwards. And in this tie, we saw the best of that early stage. In the second leg in particular, gave up one good opportunity, but otherwise no shots on target against them. Controlled the game for large parts, and arguably could have won it earlier. But a really thoroughly solid performance after doing the brilliant job away from home to get the 0-0 in a game where there weren't a huge amount of chances. It was a pretty even match. Wycombe probably did have the best chance overall, but Charlton made it the game they wanted. They restricted Wycombe. They didn't offer them many opportunities. And in the end, they nicked the crucial goal with an experienced EFL pro. And that's something that Charlton have got in their ranks in abundance, whether it's in the team, whether it's fit, or whether it's just people in and around the squad. Obviously, some of them are people I know from Luton Town, the likes of Luke Berry and Danny Hilton, who it's just important to have in the dressing room. People who have been through that disappointment before, and in Luke Berry's case, won promotion to the Premier League with Luton, scoring a penalty in that Championship playoff final a couple of years back. And a man I'm very upset we let go to Charlton last summer. There is, though, experience and quality dotted throughout the team. They've got a solid spine. Doherty and Coventry have become a really solid combination in midfield. We talked yesterday about the fact that both of the sides in the Championship final didn't really have a standout scorer. Well, this is a very different game. You've got two teams that have got that 20-goal a season striker. Matty Godden putting them in for fun, doing a really good job for the club. Ended up being a brilliant signing, hasn't he? And hopefully for his sake, he'll be able to go one better in the playoff final. They've just got a really solid core and they don't look like conceding many, which over the course of the season, yes, they started slowly, but in the end conceded 5 less than Orient, albeit scored 5 less as well. They are the team who you would perhaps fancy to try and keep a clean sheet in this game against a side who, of course, have been the joint top scorers of the 4 playoff teams this year and the joint second highest scorers in the division overall. So we do think if Charlton are going to win it, it's going to have to be a solid defensive display. And that's exactly what they produced in the 2 games against Wycombe. And even if you go back to the way they finished the season, both of these sides came into the playoffs in form. The only blotch on the Charlton record was that 3-0 defeat at Wrexham, which sort of ended their automatic promotion chances. And if they just started a bit quicker, they might have been right up there throughout. A really good finish to the season. Lots of goals, lots of clean sheets. Charlton are hitting form at the right time. And while they've picked up a couple of key injuries and people who are going to be doubtful for this final, they've got so much experience in the dressing room, which could end up being crucial. Not to mention the fact that Nathan Jones has had multiple unsuccessful playoff campaigns with Luton Town. In those he didn't make the final, so he's already gone one better. And obviously talks about his multiple experiences as a player and an assistant too. But another man who's not a stranger to Wembley or the playoffs is Richie Wellens, who had multiple playoff campaigns as a player, successful ones as well. His final game in charge of Salford before he was stupidly sacked was winning the EFL trophy back in 2021 with the delayed final from the previous year's lockdown. But Leyton Orient have had a really good finish to the season too. They've finished in style, they've finished by winning games galore, albeit they score more and concede more generally than Charlton. And then as we expected, the Stockport game was just a thriller between 2 brilliant attacking sides that are both vulnerable at the back. We mentioned that Charlton have got Matty Godden, while Leyton Orient have Charlie Kelman, who exactly the same as a massive goal threat, a reliable player in front of goal, has had a magnificent season as the top scorer in League One. And barring a miracle from Matty Godden in the final, that will stay the case at the end of the season. And while the first leg was sort of, I was going to say ruined, but sort of tarnished a little bit by refereeing decisions, which did even up because Stockport obviously shouldn't have conceded the first goal. It was a mile offside the Leyton Orient goal, but then Leyton Orient were denied a Stonewall penalty in the second half. So it did even out in the end. And then perhaps the most impressive thing for Orient in that second leg, the way they clung on after scoring so early against Stockport to then concede with 15 to go to be under a bit of pressure, which they were at times in that game. They defended more robustly than we've seen at times. And once they got to penalty kicks, they were so composed, and it was a massive difference between the 2 teams. So that's something where a lot of credit has to be given, both for the players and in particular for the preparation of the coaching team who did a wonderful job there. And that's something that's going to be really interesting going into this final. You've got 2 managers who are now incredibly talented and incredibly experienced at EFL level and in the playoffs and have had success. This is going to make it so hard to call. You've also got the clash of styles, perhaps a bit unlike yesterday where both sides you would expect to be a low scoring game. You would think, are Orient going to come out and be their aggressive selves? Is the occasion going to get to them at all? Are they going to sit back a little and play into Charlton's hands? Or are they going to invite Charlton on and say, actually, we'll have a go at you on the counter-attack and bring you out of your comfort zone? This game's a bit harder to call, not in terms of the result, but in terms of the style of the game, because there are so many different possibilities. And obviously the fact that it's 2 local-based sides, it's going to be a big build-up for an early kick-off game. And that can play an impact as well. The fact that it's a 1 o'clock kick-off instead of a 3, 4 or 5, it's not the usual routine for the players too. There's an awful lot of variables in this one that could make it go wrong. I do trust both teams to turn up and be at their best on the occasion. We talked about the experience in the Charlton dressing room. Leyton Orient have got an incredibly experienced manager, and while they have got a lot of younger players in the squad, there are some more experienced pros in there too, and people who have played internationally on the big stage. I can see this being a very tight game, but potentially a little bit of a more open one. And I think it does come down to who gets the first goal, because if Charlton Athletic go ahead, you would probably trust them to see it out. If Orient get the first, however, we could see a very different type of game. I actually think Orient might get the first goal in this one. They are generally quick starters, and they have developed a little tendency later in the season to score goals early in matches. And I think they will get the first goal. However, I will trust Charlton to get an equaliser, and unlike my prediction for yesterday, I think we might go all the way in this one. I'm going to go beyond the 90 minutes and into extra time on a Sunday afternoon at Wembley. Will it be glory for Charlton or Leyton Orient? I don't think either gets it in extra time. I'm going for penalties again, but do you trust Orient to be as composed? Do you go for the experience of Charlton, who have got players that have been there and done it before at Wembley and at times in penalty shootouts? Oh, this is hard. I mean, it's a flip of a coin again. It's not any easier to predict the result than the last episode, but I'm going to go for Charlton Athletic. I'm edging the experience of the squad. I'm not really a fan of the outcome because I don't really want to see Nathan Jones leapfrog Luton, and it would have been nice to see some of the Luton legends next year. To be honest with you, I find it very hard to split these teams because you've got one that's probably slightly better going forward, one that's slightly better at the back. I'm just going to edge experience on penalties, and I'm not sure that's the right thing to do, particularly based on Orient's second leg performance and their penalty shootout. But I'm going to go for Charlton on penalties after a 1-1 draw in 90 minutes and no further goals added in extra time. Not sure that's a clever prediction. Not sure there's going to be a lot of agreement in the comments because this is a tough one to call. Only 7 points separated them in a league campaign. Not many goals for or against. It's hard. They had the identical goal difference across the season. There's a lot that matches these sides up. What do you think down in the comments? Do you agree or disagree with my prediction of Charlton Athletic to win on penalties after a 1-1 draw? Do you think someone's going to win it in 90 minutes? Do you think someone's going to fail to turn up as Bolton did in last year's final? Or do you think this is going to be as tense and tight a final as I've predicted? Let me know your predictions, and if you beat or match my overall score, I will give you a well done and a response in the comments section. But don't forget, there's plenty more to come this weekend because although we've already had our Championship and now our League One playoff final preview, we are back tomorrow to look ahead to the League Two final. I'm not sure that one's going to be any easier. And the National League next week, as well as a number of Championship manager specials. And of course, one of the two sides in this final on Sunday will be joining our regular Championship prediction show every match week for the 25-26 season. If you want to make sure you don't miss any of those things, subscribe and turn that notification bell on. Chuck a thumbs up if you enjoyed this one. Let us know your prediction for the final. A good luck to both sides. Both have been fantastic this season. Two excellent managers, teams and sets of fans. I hope you have a great day out at Wembley and a deserving team wins in the end. We'll see you again tomorrow to look ahead to the League Two final. It's not going to be any easier, but I've got to keep an eye on it because one of those sides will be facing Luton Town next year.